Hey everybody, welcome back to Creating Scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Um, it's Friday. Um, I'm just kind of messing around a little bit, and I see some usefulness in what I'm going to show you today. Uh, you might want to visualize your terrain, your airports, or whatever in 3D in Blender. And so I'm just gonna show you some things that I play around with. I do 3D prints of terrain and stuff for my other passion, which is physical geography, geology, that kind of stuff. But there is application for this in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And so I'm just going to show you. If you remember a couple videos back, I did a video of John Glenn International Airport and how you can edit a digital elevation model and use that in different ways. Okay, a lot of that was teaching geographic information system people how to do this in GIS software. But what I'm going to show you today is using three-dimensional data in Blender for doing visualization. You can even model buildings on the surface if you wanted to. Okay, but that's a little bit tricky. But I'm going to show you how you can visualize your terrain in Blender using real digital elevation models. All right, so I am in a GIS software package called ArcGIS Pro. This one is not a free resource. This one you can get a personal license for $100 a year. Okay, they don't pay me to tell you that. Or you can use QGIS, which is free, and there's links to the description to both of these in the description of the video. There's a link in the description of the video. All right, so what we're looking at is a digital elevation model of John Glenn International Airport. All right, now I also have I have the digital elevation model, and I also have a digital surface model. Okay, this one's just I didn't apply a color ramp to this one like I did this one. All right, but it does give you the building footprints, okay, or what the buildings look like. This is a digital surface model. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to take this data and I'm going to bring it into Blender, and I'm going to bring both of them in. I'm going to bring in the digital elevation model, and I'm going to bring in the digital surface model. All right, so let's go to the digital elevation model, which has the building strip off of it, and I did this in a previous video. All right, and what we're going to do is we are simply going to, what am I going to do? Choose the digital elevation model. I'm going to go up here to data, and I'm going to export that out as a TIFF. Okay, and we're going to call this DEM2. We're going to leave that name, and I'm going to click this use renderer. I don't know if that's actually going to work or not, but we'll find out. All right, so I'm not going to worry about coordinate system and all that. I'm just going to click export, and that creates a black and white version of what we just did. All right, so yeah, it is going to work. All right, so I have a TIFF called DEM2.TIFF. I don't know what this one is, but oh, that was another thing that we did. All right, now I have a TIFF file for the digital elevation model. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to turn off this digital elevation model, and I'm going to turn on the digital surface model, and I'm going to convert this into a TIFF. All right, so data export, and it's given me my name here, which is DSM1.tiff, and I'm going to turn on use renderer. That way I get the colors or the variations of gray, and I'm going to export that. So basically did the exact same thing. All right, so I now have two TIFFs in a directory that I can import into Blender. So let me go to my go into my File Explorer and migrate over to the directory that these are in. And so I have down here, I got a bunch of them that I've been playing with for the past few days, doing some 3D prints and stuff. All right, so I want DSM1 and DEM2. All right, so DSM1 TIFF is right here, okay, and there's the thumbnail right there, so you can see it. Hope I'm not in the way there, but all right, the thumbnail looks correct, and I'm gonna, so that's DSM1, and I want DEM2, which is right here, so I'll click this one, make sure that that image looks like it did in my GIS software. So we're good there. All right, so let's minimize that, and we are going to go ahead and close out ArcGIS Pro, and yeah, I'll go ahead and save it for now. And now I'm in Blender 3.1. All right, in order for you guys to do this, you have to have the Blender GIS add-on. Again, it's another free one. All right, so just go out, do a search for Blender GIS. It will take you to the GitHub page. I think I might have a link in the description. If I don't, by the time I upload this video, I will have put that link in there. But anyway, the current version is 2.2.8, and basically you'll go to your edit. You'll download a zip, put that in a folder that is familiar to you. Then you'll go to preferences. This is just like any other add-on. You're going to go to install, click install. All right, and then you're going to migrate to the directory that you have that in there. Mine just happened to be in a folder I called software. I'm going to click, I'm not going to do it here because I already have it installed, but I'm going to click GIS, Blender GIS master.zip, and click install add-on. All right, I'm going to cancel this for a second. All right, that's going to add Blender GIS to your list, and you're going to check mark that to enable it. Got it? GIS Blender. All right. And then you can save your preferences so it always loads up every time you do Blender. All right, now I'm going to get rid of the camera and the lights because I really don't need them. All right, now I'm going to go to GIS. I'm going to go to this pull down, and I'm going to choose import and then a georeference raster, a TIFF, JPEG, or JP2. I'm going to do the TIFF, and I'm going to migrate over to where we have our images. These were some failures. I forgot to push a button. So we want DSM1 and we want DEM2. So first we're going to do the DEM2. So I'm going to click that. And then over here where it says mode, I'm going to change mode to DEM as displacement. So I'm going to click that. And if you knew all about map projections and stuff, you can mess with that. But we're just going to let it bring in the default. Okay, so I'm going to import raster. And that creates this massive, awesome looking three-dimensional surface that looks just like our airport. No, it looks like crap. All right, so let's zoom in here. We're going to have to do a few things because notice how generalized it really looks. It looks horrible. Okay. Well, the thing is that digital elevation model. I didn't show you in the GIS software, but I'll just tell you, is the resolution of each pixel in that digital elevation model is 6 foot by 6 foot square. All right. However, in Blender, when Blender first brings in and creates a mesh out of your digital elevation model, it brings it in with some default size for the mesh. So let's take a look at the mesh. All right. And if you go to the modifiers, you see the mesh that it brings in. All right. So go to modifiers and come up and click on your wireframe view. Okay. And then disable optimize display. That way you see a 3D mesh of your terrain. Now, remember, the original digital elevation model is 6 foot by 6 foot pixels. All right. Well, this grid is a lot larger than that. I'm not really sure I know the size of the grid in this case, but I just know that it's way bigger than 6 foot by 6 foot. So it's trying to interpolate that 3D texture, it brings it in as a displacement texture. Okay. That displacement texture, it's only going to project the elevations based on the corners of this big grid, right? Well, we need to increase the grid. We need to add a subsurface modifier to this grid. All right. So all you're going to do is you're going to go to add modifier and add a subsurface modifier, and it adds it to the bottom of the stack, and we're going to pull that up to the top of our modifier stack. And then you're going to get this weird shape because it's trying to do a Catmull-Clark division. We're going to just click simple and turn that into just a flat mesh. Now, it looks a little better. I mean, if I turn that off, if I turn that off from the view screen, all right, in our viewport, it doubled. All right. This is our original one that we brought in when we first brought on our digital elevation model. But when we added the subsurface modifier, it split everything in half. All right. So it created 4 times as many areas. All right. But you're just going to come over here to the levels in your viewport in your subsurface modifier, and you're just going to increase that until it starts looking better. Now, I'll tell you right now that my Blender might shut down because I'm adding in a whole bunch of stuff, or I'm adding in a whole bunch of subdivisions. So if it crashes the desktop, I'll stop recording and bring it right back up. But I don't do anything too terrible. Like if I go into edit mode right now, it will hate me and shut down. Anyway, so we have this new mesh, and you can clearly see the features of the airport. Okay, you see the runways, you see some taxiways here. This is the inner concourse area where the terminal is. All right, we got some interstate highways, exits, and things. So you can see that, right? Okay, now we can go into viewport shading and see a 3D model of our airport. And you might find this useful in Blender when you're doing your scenery without having to go into the sim and get a really good look at the terrain that's on your airport, right? Okay, I see a lot of uses for this. Now, do I use it a lot? No, I don't. But it helps you to kind of visualize the work that you're doing on your airports. All right. Now, this is a digital elevation model with some error. Okay. The LiDAR that produced this didn't have as many returns to remove all of the trees, okay, or all of the building footprints or something like that, okay. But you'll have to think about how you want to use it. All right, now this is just a portion of the digital elevation model that has a value of 0. It's just where I clip the image. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to rename this layer, or this object, because it is an object. I'm going to call that DEM. All right, now we're going to turn that off, and we're going to bring in that digital surface model which has the building footprints. All right, so we're going to go over to GIS. We're going to import georeference TIFF, and we are going to select our DSM1, and I'm going to select that, and we're going to turn that into a mesh and click import. All right, same thing. It's not bringing it in at the same resolution as our digital elevation model, so we have to subdivide this this mesh as well. So if you remember, we're going to go to wireframe and turn off optimal display in our modifier for the DEM. Then we are going to add a subsurf modifier, okay, which it adds it at the bottom. So we need to pull that up to the top and then change that to simple. Okay, so now you notice the difference here. So far we're looking at some buildings. Some buildings are starting to show up, and trees. Now it's exaggerated. Some of the stuff is exaggerated, or it could be exaggerated. But let's tighten up this mesh. So I'm going to increase the number of subdivisions to 5 until it blows up. Okay. Yeah, there's 5. I better do a save real quick. Let me do a save. We're going to call this CMH models. Okay. That just lets me know that it's the model of the ground. All right. But if you notice, it's a lot different than the other one. Okay. This one is actually showing me the buildings on the airport. All right. And notice all these trees. All right. Now you can visualize and work with your airports now, and see. Remember a couple videos ago, I talked about how the LiDAR picked up cars in the parking lot. That's what those bumps are. All right. All right. Now let's turn that back into viewport shading, and now you see a 3D model of the airport. And from this point, okay, you might have to scale it because it's in actual feet units, all right? But you might need to scale it down and turn it into a smaller size so you can create an STL file and send that out to your 3D printer if you have a 3D printer. Okay, but yeah, I can sit there and I can send this to my 3D printer and have a 3D image of my airport. All right, so let's take a look at Columbus International Airport, and there is the terminal building. Here's the parking garage. The tower doesn't show up very well. Here's the administration building next to it, and this is the actual tower. You're not going to get the actual shape, okay? But this is lane aviation all through here, these hangars here, and terminal C, B, and A at the airport. All right, parking garage. And then I'm building the new parking garage for my version 3 of this airport, and that sits in right here, okay? But just some things that you guys can do with digital elevation models to visualize your airports. Okay. And you can actually build your models and place them on the surface if you wanted to. Of course, the importer likes your buildings in Blender to be at level 0 so it can snap to the surface when you bring it into the sim. But I just thought we'd have a little bit of fun on this Friday, Fun Friday, I guess, and show you how you can bring a digital elevation model into Blender, and maybe that can augment your scenery creation. Well, I hope you have a fantastic weekend. I hope this was, fun to learn, something maybe that you didn't know that you could do. But that's how you bring a digital elevation model or surface model into Blender. Okay, just remember, you have to have the Blender GIS add-on, which is free. And you guys have a great weekend. Please subscribe, hit that notification bell, all the regular commercials, buymeacoffee.com/myphysicalworld and all that kind of stuff. You guys are awesome. Thanks for coming to the channel, and I will see you next week. I will be making some new scenery creation video next week. I haven't really figured out. I have a lot of requests for different videos, so I'm going to kind of go through those requests and see what I can come up with. And I also have to get my airport finished. All right. Hey, we'll see you guys later. See ya.